Good morning and welcome to the daily cyber briefing for Tuesday, the 28th of January. I'm Stephen Ridgway. So iOS 18.3, macOS Sequoia 15.3 have been released. There's over 20 vulnerabilities that have been addressed in those. So there is a strong recommendation to get patched as soon as possible. As part of this, also tvOS is moving to 18.3, visionOS to 2.3, and watchOS to 11.3, which is applicable on Watch Series 6 and later. So, yeah, iOS 18.3 is available for iPhones XS and later. So if you're running an X or an earlier version, I think you are now in that Apple twilight zone where they never officially say they don't support it, but they just stop supporting it. So yeah, definitely worth getting those updates put in place. There are, as I say, I think actually 29 vulnerabilities. One of those is a zero-day vulnerability tracked CVE 2025-24085. It's a use after free bug in Core Media that could permit a malicious application that is already installed on the device to elevate its own privileges. This has been allegedly exploited against versions of iOS earlier than 17.2. So, yeah, as always, definitely worth keeping on top of this stuff. Did notice that there were updates being pushed out to Apple devices yesterday. So if your devices haven't picked up these updates, then I would encourage you to nudge the device to do so. Actively exploited 0 days, or well, not a 0 day anymore, is it? Because there's a patch available for it. Well, there we go. But you know, these are fairly serious flaws. With exploits, or at least that particular one has an exploit available for it. So time to patch, and there may be other reasons to patch as well. I personally spotted that the previous iOS version, so 18.2.1, introduced a whole load of bugs, especially in the arena of location services for weather and calendar seem to, well, in fact, not only did they keep resetting, the apps themselves disappeared from the list of apps that you can control location services for, which resulted in a very irritating constant request for permissions to use location services. Seems to have gone away. At least on the device that I've tested so far. So yeah, if you're running Apple stuff, patch. On other matters, if you have not seen the press, the flurry of articles about DeepSeek, which is then you've probably not been following mainstream news, let alone cyber news, over the last couple of days. Yesterday there was a whole host of articles being published across mainstream media regarding DeepSeek. So DeepSeek is a they say new, it's not brand new, but relatively recently developed Chinese-backed AI platform. The first reason that it's hit the news is because they claim that they have trained it up to be as good as OpenAI's ChatGPT or Google or Anthropic or xAI or others, but they claim they have trained it using only a few £1 million worth of compute, as opposed to the absolute billions that have been poured into the US versions. There's a good article in Next Platform, which will link to this briefing, which talks about how they've done this. So there's a little bit of details around what sorts of processes have been used and how they've gone about getting it to where it is. There is some potentially unsubstantiated allegations that there has been a certain amount of stuff lifted from the other AI platforms, which has allowed DeepSeek to jump the queue, as it were. That's going to be interesting because as those of us listening that are in cyber, most people are in cyber if they're listening to this, aren't they? But well aware of the fact that espionage, industrial espionage, is very much a tool used by certainly the Chinese state organizations, although it's very difficult to draw the line between what's state and what's private in China. In the end, I think even if it looks to a Western eye to be private, it isn't going to get anywhere unless the state is supporting it one way or another. So it is possible that there has been espionage, data theft, plagiarization, whatever it may be, behind this. However, there's no evidence of that yet, and they may simply have actually done it the way that they say that they've done it. Either way, it undermines the commercial viability of AI, which has, unsurprisingly, had a very significant knock-on effect, by the way, on the tech stocks overnight and over the last day or so. So that's an interesting approach, and would be in line with what we know about the PLA and the Chinese authority, Chinese states' intentions to be able to cause disruption in, basically Western countries. What one could be accused of being conspiracy theorists, but you can see the logic behind nicking a load of stuff, coming up with an AI that and then announcing to the world that you've done it for pence rather than millions of pounds, or millions rather than billions of pounds, as it were, dollars, in order to undermine investment in AI in the West. Yeah, possible. Anyway, so that's what it is, and that's why it's hit the news. From a cyber perspective, unsurprisingly, it has then been hit by a large-scale cyber attack. And apparently, at least, I don't know whether it's back up or not, but they have been, yesterday, DeepSeek halted new user registrations. Now, I mean, it is interesting because the code is open source, but presumably it must be talking back then to something which is learned. I don't know. I'm not quite sure how this works, but in that respect. However, it has been Um, under attack, one could argue that may not be. Yes, blooming nation state stuff fries your brain. Anyway, um, it's the app has climbed to the top of the US Apple App Store popular apps in the last couple of days, so it's unsurprising it's come to a lot of people's attention. One wonders, is this malactors that have been attacking it, or perhaps malactors supported by other people? Who knows? Anyway, keep an eye on this one. Personally, I would be cautious about putting my data into it without doing some fairly serious due diligence on what happens to that data. Whatever data you put into an AI, there is a risk around what happens to that data, but you've got to choose. At the worst, you're choosing who you trust least and avoiding them, rather than who you implicitly actually trust. Where's the least damage going to be done? So we'll keep an eye on this space and see what comes of it. In the meantime, if you are going to use Chinese-sponsored AI, be aware of the potential risks and make sure that you've done your business risk assessment properly. Given what we already know about the desire in that part of the world just to hoover up data in large quantities for use later. And then finally from me today, completely passed me by, as it does most years, but today is Data Privacy Day 2025. Data Privacy Day was established by the Council of Europe in 2006, and it commemorates the anniversary of Convention 108, the first binding international treaty on data protection. I think that is just so bureaucratic. So happy Convention 108 anniversary day to all of you who think that having days to celebrate all sorts of random stuff is a really good idea. Well, good. And in the meantime, keep your data private. So that's all from me for today. I hope you have a good... What day is it? It's Tuesday, isn't it? I hope you have a good Tuesday. I was so hoping it was Wednesday. No, have a good Tuesday, and I will speak to you all again tomorrow, which is